We'll continue our discussion about data retrieval and specifically the select statement. Now, previously we talked about select from table. So we just selected a column or multiple columns or all columns from one table, but we don't have any type of filtration on the results. Now, the select statement must have a select clause and a from clause, but also can have a where clause. So a where clause is going to serve as our filtration mechanism, so we can do some kind of filtration and filter out some data and get only what we want. This is going to be much better when we see it through an example, which we will do in a bit. And we also have some wide range of mathematical functions like minimum, maximum count, sum and round, and a lot of them. We also have some string functions, some date functions, and some analytical functions, as we will go through some of these. Now, as some of the mathematical functions are very easy to use, we will start with at least two of those. The first example is the average, where you will just write select and then AVG, and in parentheses you will provide the column name that you want to get the average of. So here is an example from the book, but let's do an example on the data set that we have. So let's look at books. So I'll say select AVG, which is the average, and then I can just go for any column that has numbers. So if I look at the columns here, I can look at either the cost or the retail. So I'll just go with the retail, select the average of retail from books. And this is going to give me the average of the retail for all books that I have. So this is the average retail for all of the books in my database. Now, you can also do some kind of filtration, as we'll see later on, but for right now we don't have the where clause, so this is what we have. You can use the as for column aliasing, which is going to look much better, because if you look here in the data set that we got, it says AVG retail. You can just say as and then average retail, or any sentence that you want, and this is going to change the display on the column name. Now, another one is count, and this is an example with a where clause, which is something that we will cover right after this. But the count is the same idea. You will select and then place count and put the column or the columns that you want in parentheses, and then a from clause. Now the where is optional, so what I want to do right here is I will do another select statement. So select, let's see, for example, in customers. So let's count the customers that we have in here. So I will say select count star from customers. And this is going to give me the number of customers that I have in my database. So this is all of the customers that I have in my database. Now you can go and say select count customer ID, because you remember the customer ID is the unique key for this table, and I will have customer IDs as many as customers, and this is what I personally prefer to do. Now let's see the other part. We have a part here which says where order ID is equal to something. Now this is the where clause, which is the filtration that we will be applying to the data. So what is the where clause? It's used to retrieve rows based on certain condition. For example, all employees living in a certain place, all dependents of one specific employee, all books written by a certain author. We will require a column name and some kind of operator to compare, and a value or another column to compare to. So you'll need to compare two things for your filtration. And then those two things can be a column and a value, or a column and another column. Now this is again the general syntax of the select statement. As we know, the select and the from are a must because they don't have square brackets. But then, as we already seen distinct, which is an optional, and then you place the column list from table list. So these are things that have to be in a select statement. And then optionally you can have your where statement with some conditional expression. We will go through the other ones one by one, but right now this is our focus. So our focus for this specific video is going to be the where clause. Now it says you will need a conditional expression for the where clause. Now you can use any of these operators. So the equal sign is the equal sign, larger than, less than. So these are mathematical operators. We will see some more ways to compare, but then not equal to, you have three ways to do it. You have to either do it less than, larger than, back to back, or exclamation mark and then equal, which is not equal. If you're familiar with Java or some languages that are close to Java, this is how you say not equal. And then you have this kind of power, or this symbol, and then the symbol that you use to raise something to the power of another thing, and then followed by the equal sign. I personally use this. Again, you have the option to use whatever you want. And then less than or equal, larger than or equal. Let's see some filtration on what we got right here. Now, if I want to say how many customers are living in Florida, so I'll say, okay, where, this is my filtration, and I will go and compare a column with some kind of value. So I want to count the customer IDs where the column state has the value of FL. And then if I run this, it says I have 4 customers living in Florida. Now let me do something that is just to demonstrate or for clarification purposes. Select star from customers. Now if I select everything, now when I do a count, what's gonna happen? How did this previous query work? What we had is select count customer ID. So it is counting customer IDs, but then it says where state is equal to FL. This means if you find the value FL in the column, then this is one of the data pieces that I want. So it's gonna come here and we'll check, does this equal to FL? No, I'll not increase the count. Is this FL? Yes, so we have 1. Is this FL? No. Ignore it, ignore, and until you reach the second FL. So this is the second one, and this is the third one, and finally we should have a fourth one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we skipped the first one. So we have 4 customers in Florida, and this is how it's working. Now we can do something else. So let's do this. Select average retail from books where category is equal to computer, for example. So this says what is the average retail for a computer book. What I'm doing is I'm getting the average retail for books that have the category computer in the category column. And now I can run this, and this is going to tell me, okay, this is the average retail for a computer book. Now you can also do larger than, less than. So what I want to do, for example, is I will say, okay, give me the title for any book. So I'll just get the title. Select title from books. So the syntax is going to go like this: select something from a table and then where your conditions apply. So where retail is less than 55. And this is saying give me any book. What are the books that have retail less than 55? I'm just looking for titles. And these are the books with retail less than 55. To make sure I can just do this, select the title and retail. It is going to give me both columns, and I don't see anything that's 55 or more. And this is another way to use your where clause. Now you can use some more conditions together, so we can say select title retail, and let me do something category just to show you what's gonna appear and what's gonna disappear. And now I can say, okay, I want the retail to be less than 55, but I also want the category to be computers. And I can just do this. Now I only have computer books that are less than 55. Now you don't have to have the rest of the columns. I just had them for demonstration purposes. I can just do this and display only the titles. You can choose whatever columns you want, whatever filtration criteria you want. Just make sure that the order is select something or things from a table, or later on we'll see list of tables where some condition or conditions apply. And as we said, this part is optional only if you want to do filtration, but the from clause and the select clause are things that are not optional. They are a must. They have to be there in every single select statement.